In a world marked by regional conflicts and global tensions, the prospect of peace becomes a beacon of hope for nations and individuals alike. One such glimmer of hope emerges on the horizon as the eyes of the international community today draw to the Cairo Peace Summit. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special live coverage to highlight the work of the historic Cairo Peace Summit. This morning, the work of the Cairo Peace Summit began, which was held amid extremely dangerous circumstances imposed by the Israeli occupation aggression on the Gaza Strip and the massive destruction of lives and property caused by the Israeli occupation killing machine. The State of Kuwait's delegation to the summit was headed by the representative of His Highness the Emir Sheikh Nawaf Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah. May Allah protect and bless him. His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Mish'al Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah. May Allah protect him, in a new Kuwaiti message of support for the Palestinian cause.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. فخامة الأخ فتاح السيسي رئيس جمهورية مصر العربية الشقيقة، إخواني أصحاب الجلالة والفخامة والسمو، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. في البداية يطيب لي أن أنوب عن حضرة صاحب السمو أمير دولة الكويت الشيخ نواف الأحمد الجابر الصباح حفظه الله ورعاه، وأن أنقل إليكم جميعا خالص تحيات سموه وصادق دعواته لكم بالتوفيق والسداد لكل ما فيه خير المنطقة والعالم أجمع. ونتقدم بالشكر الجزيل لفخامة الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي رئيس جمهورية مصر العربية الشقيقة على عقد هذه القمة التي تأتي في ظل تطورات استثنائية مأساوية يتعرض لها الشعب الفلسطيني الشقيق، وما تحمله هذه التطورات من تداعيات خطيرة على أمن واستقرار المنطقة بل العالم كله. أصحاب الجلالة والفخامة والسمو، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، نتابع بكل ألم استمرار وتصاعد العمليات العسكرية التي تقوم بها سلطات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي ضد الأشقاء الفلسطينيين في قطاع غزة، ونشهد العقاب الجماعي الذي يتعرضون له من خلال استهداف المدنيين العزل بغارات جوية متواصلة أدت إلى سقوط الآلاف الضحايا الأبرياء أطفالا ونساء ورجالا، والاستمرار في استهداف الخدمات الأساسية وقطع إمدادات الكهرباء والماء والغذاء والوقود، ودعوات التهجير القسري لسكان القطاع. ولا يخفى على أحد أن تلك الممارسات تتعارض مع القانون الإنساني الدولي والقرارات الدولية ذات الصلة. أصحاب الجلالة والفخامة والسمو، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، إن هذه المأساة الإنسانية هي نتيجة عدم سعي المجتمع الدولي لإيجاد حل عادل وشامل ونهائي لهذه القضية، والتعامل مع الانتهاكات الإسرائيلية بمعايير مزدوجة. ودولة الكويت إذ تجدد إدانتها لما ترتكبه سلطات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي من جرائم واعتداءات، فإنها تدين في الوقت نفسه قتل المدنيين وتعريضهم للأسر والاعتقال، وتدعو المجتمع الدولي لممارسة دوره في الإيقاف الفوري لكافة العمليات العسكرية وتوفير الحماية الدولية للمدنيين وفتح ممرات آمنة لوصول المساعدات الإغاثية لأهالي غزة. كما ترفض دولة الكويت أي دعوات هدفها التهجير القسري لأبناء الشعب الفلسطيني الشقيق، وتحميل دول الجوار تبعات هذه المأساة التي تعتبر انتهاكا لمبادئ القانون الإنساني الدولي. وختاما، فإننا في دولة الكويت قادة وحكومة وشعبا نؤكد موقفنا الثابت في دعم الشعب الفلسطيني الشقيق لنيل حقوقه المشروعة وإقامة دولته المستقلة على حدود 4 يونيو 1967، ونجدد تمسكنا بخيار السلام العادل الشامل كخيار استراتيجي وفقا للمرجعيات والقرارات الدولية ذات الصلة ومبادرة السلام العربية، وبما يحقق الأمن والاستقرار للمنطقة وشعوبها. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this live coverage where we share with you the latest information as they unfold, along with special reports and interviews during this historic meeting. For more on this topic, we are joined here in the studio with our distinguished guest, political analyst Mr. Jassim Khabazert. Good evening, Mr. Khabazert.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for your invitation.
Thank you. At the outset, how do you see the importance of the support provided by the state of Kuwait to the Palestinian cause at this critical stage and throughout the past decades of the issue's life?
I believe Kuwait has always been an outstanding nation and country in its support to the Palestinians and the Palestinian cause. This dates back to the early days of the occupation and displacement of the Palestinians since 1946 and 48. Kuwait has always protected and always accepted for Palestinians to come and reside in Kuwait and have a normal life and prosper. Furthermore, with time, the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, actually set its main office, one of its main offices in Kuwait. And Kuwait provided all the support it needed, humanitarian support, economical support, medication, schooling, whatever the Palestinians needed. And these are the days that I grew up and I remember sharing with the Palestinians our daily life. And they were very vital people, very productive people, and very nationalistic people. They were not here to seek nationality. They were here to survive and go back to their homeland, which was occupied by force unlawfully by Zionist forces. This particular relationship between Kuwait and the Palestinians led to the presence of almost 350,000 of Palestinians in Kuwait. And they were a very vital part of the development of the country. They are very progressive people, very genuine people. So we have no bad memories with them, against them at all. And we believe that Kuwait, being such a nice country, such a moderate country, and treats humanitarian needs of people, of the international community, always with respect and care and attention. So we believe that we cannot let go of our values and of our leadership's, let's say, drive to maintain all the support we can for the Palestinian cause, hopefully for them to return back to their homeland someday.
What is your reading, sir, of the most prominent aspects of the speech of the representative of His Highness the Emir, His Highness the Crown Prince, may Allah protect him, at the Cairo Peace Summit?
I can recall a few very important points he brought up. One is that Kuwait is in pain. Kuwait is suffering and sharing the pain of the Palestinians undergoing what they go under these very, very unfortunate and tragic conditions. Secondly, it is calling for humanitarian help for them before all, because at the end they are human beings.
True.
And they need to be taken care of, especially what we see that schools and hospitals and all the innocent people's homes are bombarded. They are not military people, they're just simple people living there, but Israeli forces using their might against innocent people, are harmless people. We're not talking about the Palestinians who have, let's say, arms in their hands, who rightfully are defending their country and their homeland. We're talking about a nation powerful like Israel, with all its might, and pouring its devastation upon these innocent people. This in itself is a very, let's say, at least we can say, is unfair treatment of a conflict. His Highness the Crown Prince mentioned that the Palestinian people are being punished. And punished is not a political term. Punishment is a personal thing. It has to do with personal. And apparently it's obvious that the Israelis are taking this beyond what military confrontation calls for. They're going beyond this and trying to cause as much harm as to the people and to the innocent people as vengeance, as a revenge. And this itself has been brought up by our Crown Prince among all the speeches that I've heard. And another important, let's say, final point was, of course, he wants the cessation of what is going on, and that the international community has the obligation to abide by all the resolutions that came during the last 50, 60 years in the international community. So is reviving this call and strengthening the Kuwait's request for them to do what is needed to be done to bring peace and tranquility to this and have peaceful discussions and resolve the situation. A final point which he brought, which is very important, that he brings to the world, that Kuwait believes that the borders between Israel and the occupied land must be according to the borders of 1967 on 4th of June. That's dating back quite a bit. And this is a very large and important demand by Kuwait, but it's a rightful demand. And one should not let go of their values and ethically has to stop with this peaceful solution rather than let it continue as it is with military confrontation.
That's right. His Highness the Crown Prince, may Allah protect him, sent a message during the summit today in which he called on the international community to fulfill its responsibilities and provide protection for the Palestinian people. Now, what is the importance of this message in your opinion, sir?
It's time for the world to realize that one country cannot take unilateral action by itself and try to resolve disputes with another country, no matter what. And we have living examples here in our region particularly. So the international community is the only body that should get together and be fair about treating any kind of disputes in this country, in this world, particularly in what's going on right now. And we are finding certain powerful and Western countries who are very much siding by Israel against the events that are going on right now in a way that it shows a double standard way of dealing with resolving this situation and dealing with Israel. They are calling for peace, but here they are supporting Israel through its brutal treatment of the Palestinian people. So it is only natural and it's only reasonable, and it's an international binding, let's say, agreement between them all to resolve their differences, politically, through dialogue through understanding of each other's problems, and try to come up with a just and fair resolution. That's why Kuwait has always upheld international law in all its desires and requests from any nation that had a dispute between themselves, being in the region or being international.
Mr. Khabazad, the representative of His Highness the Emir, His Highness the Crown Prince, may Allah protect him, indicated that the Palestinians' tragedy is a result of a deficiency in the role of the international community. Now, to what extent is the Israeli occupation exploiting this deficiency?
Having said what I did a little while ago, what's happening right now is exactly the opposite of this. Israel and its countries that are supporting it are not upholding any kind of international law. They're allowing the might of Israel to be exercised upon innocent people unjustly, and with the intention to displace these people or even to completely annihilate their existence. I believe that this particular issue, which now it's under question in this summit, is a major point. And so Kuwait is being very realistic and clear about this, transparent. And it's time for Kuwait policy and Kuwaiti political presence and political, let's say, messages, is to bring this point to the surface and tell the world, please wake up. This is the time that you have to be, aware of what is going on. You cannot hide, and you cannot hide behind any kind of excuses. It is right there. It is in front of you. You have to find a solution to this conflict, and you have to be, let's say, accountable for overlooking international law for any reason you have and allowing such atrocities to be committed under these circumstances. So Kuwait is actually pretty muchly is being clear in holding the world accountable for not caring to implement international law on the conflict which is going on right now, particularly on Israel, because it is obvious that Israel is more powerful, more capable militarily, more capable of any kind of military action to suppress any kind of nationalistic call by the Palestinian people for their independence, for their rights of existence, for the rights to be human beings living in a peaceful small region which is called Gaza.
That's right. Mr. Khabazad, the speech of the representative of His Highness the Emir, His Highness the Crown Prince, may Allah protect him, didn't ignore the importance of opening safe corridors to Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid.
Yes.
So, do the Arab and international positions have any opportunities to force the occupation to open humanitarian doors?
Yes, I believe it's possible. It's not in my hands to give a military solution, because right now it requires a military solution to use might to create safe passage and opening for the in and out of humanitarian help from Gaza to the borders, whether it's to Jordan or whether it's to Egypt. I believe, or even to Lebanon. So I believe that the essence of what is going on right now is to first think of the humanitarian drastic impact on the innocent people, and it's obvious who's being affected right now. We're not talking about armies, we're talking about usual people in their homes, in their hospitals, in their schools are being bombarded day and night. So not only that, but shutting off water and food and supply, and this is actually a very, very, very unusual way of treating a conflict where you want to starve the people to death. Or whatever you do to actually make them completely disappear by their own, by stopping any kind of supply of human needs, the daily human needs. Let alone talking about hygiene, let alone talking about sanitary situation, all these. So you can imagine a very small area being completely surrounded by a very forceful army and bombarded. helplessly. So opening any kind of corridor is the least one can do. And I don't think that opening corridor has any effect on military action, because all what the military has to do is to stop in a certain area and it can control easily, and we have international peace organizations such as the Red Crescent, the Red Cross. These are internationally known, and they know exactly how to deal with such drastic.
Right.
So if they allow them to do what they can do, naturally, all the regional countries have to put their hands together and find a way to convince the conflict to stop in a certain area for the exchange of such requirements of food and necessities for the people and the Palestinian people in Gaza.
We're trapped there. That's right.
Yes.
What about the state of Kuwait's rejection, which came in the speech of the representative of His Highness the Emir, His Highness the Crown Prince, may Allah protect him, of any cause aimed at the forced displacement of Palestinians? Now, how do you see the countries in the region dealing with the occupation's plans in this regard?
Yes, I believe it's very clear that what Kuwait is asking for. When it asks for non-displacement, that means there should be no open area available for them for transition from Gaza to that area. In other words, if it has to go to Sinai, Egyptian border, then Egypt must not allow this. If it has to go to Jordan, Jordan must not allow this. If it has to go to Lebanon. So these regional countries surrounding the area, they are requested, let's say, forcefully requested, not to allow any displacement. So that would put Israel in a very, should be putting Israel in a very difficult predicament against its will and, let's say, trials to displace people. If it cannot displace them to any local area, that means that, let's say, that option is not going to be valid, is not going to be implemented. So that's why the call for all the neighboring countries not to allow displacement is the, let's say, the practical solution for this unfortunate call.
Mr. Al-Azad, how do you find the role of the state of Kuwait and the most prominent positions regarding its dealings with the Palestinian issue?
Kuwait has always been a supporter of Palestine and return of its Palestinians to their homeland. This is not going to change. And it's trying in its all might, in its all possibilities, in its ways it can. Kuwait has no military might to be able to interfere into this, nor does it want to do this at all.
No.
So it always has been a moderate country, asking for moderation, asking for peaceful solution, asking for diplomatic solutions. And Kuwait has always been known as a nation, as people, as a government policy, that through moderation you can always resolve your disputes, be it brother to brother or enemy to enemy. And I think that this particular position of Kuwait that has been outstanding through the ages, to the point that His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah, may he rest in peace, received the humanitarian, let's say, medal from United Nations for being of such a caliber and such a person who is advocating peace and humanitarian support for the whole world.
That's right.
So I believe Kuwait will continue to be like this. And in this particular summit, I have heard our leader being most clear, most transparent, and most demanding, actually, and to the point of holding responsible people accountable for the aftermath of this event, for the repercussions that this event is going to bring about in the region. It's not going to disappear by itself. It must have some side effects. There will be some collateral damage here and there, and God forbid. So he is in a way warning the regional countries and warning the world that this situation should not continue and should stop. And he's been very clear and very demanding in this.
Well, Mr. Jassim Qabazar, thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate you taking the time to speak to us and just elaborate and answer some of our questions.
I believe, thank you very much, and thank you, and I thank you at all the time for inviting me, and I find it my duty to express as a Kuwaiti national.
Well, we appreciate it because it explains more for us and for our viewers just to understand more about what's going on.
Yes, we don't speak politics, but we are human beings and we're living with each other, and all we want is the benefit of the human to live in a better life.
We look forward to that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Well, in search of de-escalation in the Gaza Strip and the occupied Palestinian territories, I beg your pardon.
الحقينا يا نابلس، الحقونا يا اهل الضفه.
فقدت حدا؟
بعرفش ابوي لا نعرف.
ان شاء الله ربنا معاون.
In search of de-escalation in the Gaza Strip and the occupied Palestinian territories and finding a comprehensive and just solution to the Palestinian issue, the Cairo Peace Summit kicked off today in the new administrative capital. The Cairo Peace Summit, which was called for by His Excellency Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, saw the participation of representatives of 31 Arab and foreign countries, in addition to the participation of 3 international organizations, namely the United Nations, the African Union and the Arab League. The League of Arab States. Arab leaders condemned the Israeli occupation's 2-week bombardment of Gaza and demanded renewed efforts to end the aggression. Here's more in the following report.
The Cairo Peace Summit aims to provide a platform for diplomatic dialogue, bringing together leaders from across the globe to discuss the immediate challenges facing Gaza and its increasingly desperate and besieged people. The international community has been deeply concerned and alarmed by the ongoing violence and its impact on the lives of ordinary citizens. The conflict, which has raged on for weeks, has resulted in an alarming loss of life. According to recent reports, at least 4,000 people had been martyred in Gaza due to relentless and indiscriminate Israeli occupation airstrikes, with heartbreaking statistics indicating that 1/3 of the victims of the aggression are children. The summit will discuss the cessation of the war in Gaza, the provision of urgent humanitarian aid to the Palestinians, as well as the revival of the peace process and the resolution of the Palestinian issue in accordance with the 2-state solution. With the overt occupation's plan to displace the residents of the Gaza Strip and the repetition of the tragedy of the 1948 Nakba, when Zionists displaced Palestinians from their land, and none of them have returned to date as a result of systemic settlement policies. A number of heads of government called for the need to stop the escalation in the Gaza Strip and work to ensure the arrival of humanitarian aid and urgent medical relief for the affected people. This came during the Cairo Peace Summit, which was launched today at the invitation of His Excellency Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to discuss containing the repercussions of the military escalation in the Gaza Strip and providing a new opportunity for a just settlement of the Palestinian issue. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi reiterated the total rejection of the forced displacement of Palestinians, explaining that the solution to the Palestinian issue is not displacement of an entire people. He added that the only solution to the issue is justice, with the Palestinians obtaining their legitimate rights to self-determination and to live in dignity and safety in an independent state on their land like the rest of the people of the land. Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud said that he rejected attempts at forced displacement of the people of Gaza by the occupation. For his part, His Majesty Jordan's King Abdullah denounced what he termed global silence about the occupation's attacks, which have killed thousands in Gaza and made over 1 million homeless, and urged an even-handed approach to the conflict. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas also reiterated that Palestinians would not be displaced or driven off their land. French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna told the summit a humanitarian corridor was needed to deliver aid to civilians, which she said could lead to a ceasefire. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said in his speech that the Cairo Peace Summit would be the first step in the Middle East peace journey, praising efforts to hold the summit to prevent conflicts. For his part, Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitso stressed his country's firm position on the Palestinian cause, saying collective punishment in the Gaza Strip is forbidden, calling on the occupying entity to observe international law, stop the sea of blood and killing civilians. The summit coincides with continuing Israeli occupation preparations for a ground assault on Gaza. More than 4,100 Palestinians have been killed amid a growing humanitarian crisis. Arab countries have voiced their anger at the occupation's unprecedented bombardment and siege of Gaza, home to 2.3 million people and one of the most densely populated places on Earth.
حكينا يا سنين الحكينا يا نابلس الحقونا يا اهل الضفه.
فقدت حدا؟
بعرفش ابوي لا راجع.
ان شاء الله ربنا معاون.
عيوننا إليك ترحل كل يوم ترحل كل يوم.
In Gaza, more than 4,385 Palestinians have been martyred and more than 5,000 residential buildings have been destroyed since the beginning of the Israeli occupation's aggression on the Gaza Strip on October 7th. The bombing of residential areas resulted in the death of over 2,500 Palestinian women and children, with reports of over 1,500 missing persons under the rubble due to the inability of civil defense teams to recover them due to the lack of capabilities. The suffering of the people of Gaza is exasperated by the permanent power cuts, the lack of water and the displacement of hundreds of thousands since the beginning of the occupation's aggression. More in the following report.
The health authorities in the Gaza Strip announced that the outcome of the ongoing Israeli occupation aggression on the Gaza Strip has risen to 4,385 martyrs. The authorities said in a statement that the number of injuries as a result of the ongoing aggression since October 7th has reached 13,561. The percentage of family occupancy in hospitals exceeded 150%, which forced hospitals to establish multiple tents to accommodate the wounded and sick, and that violations against medical staff led to the death of 51 medical and health staff and the injury of 87 others with various injuries. The bombing of residential areas resulted in the death of over 2,500 Palestinian women and children among the total martyrs, in addition to the presence of 1,500 reports of missing persons under the rubble due to the inability of civil defense teams to recover them due to the lack of capabilities. The Israeli occupation's bombing on the facilities led to the destruction of more than 5,000 residential buildings, including 13,000 housing units that were completely demolished, and more than 140,000 units were partially demolished. 60 government headquarters in Gaza were completely destroyed, in addition to dozens of service facilities in all governorates of the sector, including banks, health facilities, primary care centers, and 1,153 schools were damaged or are completely out of service. These statistics are preliminary and can be increased because of the continuation of the aggression and the inability of field crews to reach the destroyed areas north and western Gaza. The suffering of the people of Gaza is exacerbated by the permanent power cuts, the lack of water, the displacement of hundreds of thousands to schools, and their lack of minimum life since the beginning of the occupation's aggression. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has urgently called for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire to alleviate the epic human suffering that is unfolding in the region. The mounting casualties and deteriorating conditions are a stark reminder of the urgent need for a resolution to this devastating conflict. The occupation airstrikes pounded locations across the Gaza Strip, including parts of the south, that the occupation forces had declared as safe zones, heightening fears among more than 2 million Palestinians trapped in the territory that nowhere was safe. The bombardments came after the occupation agreed to allow Egypt to deliver limited humanitarian aid to Gaza, the first crack in a punishing 15-day siege. Many of Gaza's residents were down to 1 meal a day and drinking dirty water. Egypt must still repair the roads across the border, which was cratered by occupation airstrikes. The announcement of a plan to bring water, food, and other supplies into Gaza came as fury over a Tuesday night explosion at Gaza City's Al Ahli hospital, spread across the Middle East. Video from the scene showed the hospital grounds strewn with torn bodies, many of them young children. Hundreds of wounded were rushed to Gaza City's main hospital, where doctors already facing critical supply shortages were sometimes forced to perform surgery on the floors without anesthesia.
To shed more light on the Cairo Peace Summit and the most important issues raised during it, Hind Sayed Hani, Foreign Affairs Editor, Al Ahram newspaper, join us over the phone from Cairo. Good evening, Ms. Hani. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
His Excellency Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi invited world leaders to attend the Cairo Peace Summit on the Palestinian issue. How does this reflect Egypt's role in supporting Arab issues, especially the Palestinian cause?
Egypt has always reiterated unwavering support for the Palestinian cause and its firm rejection of displacing the Palestinian people. President al-Sisi has intensified contacts with world leaders to de-escalate the situation in Gaza. Egypt was one of the first countries to support the Palestinian decision of independence and officially recognized Palestine on 15th of November 1988.
At the outset, we ask about the summit. How do you see the importance of the timing and the expected decisions?
The timing of the summit comes in the midst of a threat to a regional war. This could be devastating to the whole region. We see skirmishes by different factions along the region against the United States interests in Iraq and in Syria, and the Houthis from Yemen tried to fire rockets against Israel. And the border between Israel and Lebanon is subject to uncontrolled escalation to the situation in the Palestinian and the situation in the Palestinian territories is facing a threat of further deterioration. So the timing of the summit came at very critical moment. But actually there is a polarization in the international community towards the Palestinian issue.
And how is the summit an event of unifying the world in the face of the continued Israeli occupation aggression in the Gaza Strip?
The summit has reflected a state of severe polarization in the international community, where the Western countries that used to deal with the international issues with double standards, like we can see from the case we compare the cases, how the Western countries dealt with Ukraine versus Palestinian issue and Gaza. They have delivered Ukraine all the weapons and money it needs, where Gazan people cannot find any shelter or any necessities of life to live on. The Western countries considered what happened on the 7th of October as a terrorist act that it refuses, where it turns a blind eye to the just claims of the Palestinian people. We can mention that all the resistance operations went on occupied lands that Israel occupied from the year 1948. The Western countries support the Israeli hostilities on the Gaza Strip and consider it self-defense, and support the continuation of the hostilities and the ground offensive against the people in Gaza Strip under the cover of self-defense, where it turns a blind eye to the Israeli bombardment of hospitals, UNRWA, schools, mosques, church, and it also turns a blind eye on Israel using white phosphorus bombs. On the other hand, we can see the stance of the Arab and the Islamic countries that call for ending the hostilities immediately and allow the delivering of assistances without any conditions.
The occupation forces continue their daily aggression amid Arab. Well, thank you, Ms. Hani. That was Hani Sayed, Foreign Affairs Editor from Al Ahram newspaper in Cairo, Egypt. Now back to my colleague Lulwa on the other side of the studio.
Thank you, Shamail. In Gaza, we'll be back right after this break.
شاء الله ربنا تعود.
Children in the Gaza Strip are exposed to severe suffering as a result of the war by the Israeli occupation on the Strip.